Anthropology, the blueprint behind human society. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast canyon, looking down through layers of sediment and stone, each stratum revealing a different chapter in Earth's story. Now imagine that same depth applied, not to geology, but to humanity itself. Every gesture we make, every word we speak, every belief we hold carries the accumulated weight of thousands of generations. We are living archives of human experience. What does it mean to be human? Why do we walk upright when our primate relatives move through trees? Why have we developed thousands of distinct languages, each one a unique architecture of meaning? Why do we build cities that reach toward the sky, create elaborate rituals to mark the passages of life, and construct systems of belief about forces we cannot see? These questions aren't merely academic curiosities. They touch the very core of our existence, our identity, our place in the natural world. There is a field of study dedicated entirely to exploring these mysteries, a discipline that approaches humanity with the curiosity of a detective and the patience of an archaeologist. This field is anthropology, and it represents perhaps our most comprehensive attempt to understand ourselves. The word anthropology itself reveals the essence of this pursuit. It comes from two ancient Greek roots that create a beautiful synthesis of meaning. The first part, anthropos, means human being or mankind. This same root appears in words like philanthropy, the love of humanity, and misanthrope, one who dislikes people. The second part, logos, translates as study, reason, or word. This element appears throughout our academic vocabulary in biology, psychology, and geology. Put them together, and anthropology becomes quite literally the study of humanity. But this simple translation doesn't capture the full scope of what anthropology truly encompasses. It isn't merely the study of humans in a clinical sense. It's the study of what makes us human, what binds us together across cultures, and what makes each society beautifully, fascinatingly distinct. Anthropology is often described as the science of humanity, but that description barely scratches the surface. This field studies humans from our evolutionary origins in ancient Africa to the complex cultural expressions of modern urban life. It examines fossilized bones of our ancestors who lived millions of years ago and the shifting patterns of social media communication happening in real time. What sets anthropology apart is its fundamentally holistic nature. Where psychology focuses on the individual mind, sociology on social structures, or history on the documented past, anthropology weaves all these threads together. It recognizes that to understand humans, we must consider biology and culture simultaneously, that language shapes thought just as thought shapes language, that environment influences society just as society transforms environment. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything is connected. Consider the extraordinary diversity of human experience on this planet. In some societies, people live in small nomadic bands, moving with the seasons. In others, millions coordinate their lives in megacities, their days structured by artificial light and digital communication. Some cultures trace descent through mothers, others through fathers. Some languages have dozens of words for snow, others none at all. Anthropology asks not which of these ways of life is correct, but rather what each reveals about the remarkable flexibility and creativity of the human species. This perspective This willingness to see all human societies as equally valid expressions of human possibility wasn't always central to anthropology. The field had to grow into this understanding. Anthropology as a formal discipline emerged during a particular moment in history, shaped by both scientific curiosity and imperial expansion. The roots of anthropological thinking trace back to the Enlightenment of the 17th and 18th centuries, when European thinkers began to emphasize empirical observation and systematic comparison. By the 19th century, these scattered observations coalesced into a more organized field. The impact of Charles Darwin's work on evolutionary theory cannot be overstated. Evolution offered a way to connect contemporary humans with ancient ancestors through chains of descent. The discovery of Neanderthal fossils demonstrated that humans had a deep history that could be investigated scientifically. But early anthropology was not immune to the prejudices of its time. Many 19th century anthropologists viewed European civilization as the pinnacle of human achievement and other societies as primitive stages along a single evolutionary path. This framework provided intellectual justification for colonialism and reinforced harmful hierarchies. The critical turning point came when scholars challenged these assumptions and developed a fundamentally different approach. The shift toward cultural relativism marked anthropology's coming of age. Cultural relativism holds that cultural practices and beliefs should be understood within their own context rather than judged against external standards. This doesn't mean all practices are equally beneficial, but that understanding must precede judgment. Modern anthropology emphasizes several key principles. Fieldwork, the practice of spending extended periods living within communities being studied, became the gold standard. Diversity came to be seen not as a hierarchy, but as a spectrum of human possibility. An explicit commitment to ethics now guides anthropological work. To understand anthropology fully, we need to explore its major branches, each approaching human experience from a different angle. Cultural anthropology focuses on living societies and the rich complexity of human culture. Culture encompasses everything that humans learn and share within their societies. Material objects people create and use, languages they speak, beliefs they hold about the world and their place in it, customs they follow in daily life, economic and political systems they construct, and the subtle rules governing social interaction. Cultural anthropologists use ethnography, which involves long-term, immersive observation and participation in community life. This approach, known as participant observation, requires anthropologists to live among the people they study, learning the language, participating in activities, and building relationships. Through this deep engagement, anthropologists gain insights that would be impossible to achieve through surveys or brief visits. They learn to understand the world as their subjects do, to see meaning where outsiders might see only behavior. The topics cultural anthropologists explore are wonderfully diverse. They study kinship systems, revealing that family definitions vary dramatically across cultures. They examine gender roles and how masculinity and femininity are culturally constructed rather than biologically predetermined. They investigate religious practices and systems of belief, economic exchange, and the meanings people attach to objects and transactions, political power and how authority is established and maintained, food practices and the social significance of what and how we eat, migration and diaspora communities, and the construction of identity in an increasingly interconnected world. Consider kinship as an example. In many Western societies, kinship is understood primarily in biological terms. Parents, siblings, and children are defined by genetic relationships. But anthropologists have documented societies where kinship works entirely differently. Some cultures practice adoption so extensively that nearly everyone has both biological and social parents. Others extend kinship terms to include entire communities, so that dozens of people might be called mother or father. Still others trace descent exclusively through women or exclusively through men, creating kinship systems that organize society in ways unfamiliar to those raised in bilateral systems. These variations demonstrate that family, which often feels like the most natural and universal of human institutions, is actually profoundly shaped by culture. Biological anthropology approaches humanity from an evolutionary and biological perspective. This branch grapples with profound questions. Why did our ancestors begin walking on two legs, freeing their hands for tool use, and completely reorganizing their anatomy in the process? Why did our brains expand so dramatically over the past few million years, growing to sizes that challenge the very limits of what the human birth canal can accommodate? How do genetics and environment interact to produce the incredible diversity we see in human populations? Biological anthropologists study human evolution through multiple lenses. They examine fossilized remains of ancient hominins, carefully reconstructing the pathways that led from early primates to modern humans. They observe living primates, our closest relatives, to understand what behaviors and traits we share with them and what makes humans unique. They analyze DNA to trace human migrations and relationships between populations. They investigate how human bodies adapt to different environments, from high-altitude mountain ranges to tropical rainforests. Some biological anthropologists work in forensic contexts, using their knowledge of human skeletal variation to assist in criminal investigations or identify victims of disasters. The story told by biological anthropology is one of remarkable transformation. Our hominin lineage split from other apes approximately 6 to 7 million years ago. Over subsequent millennia, our ancestors underwent dramatic changes. They began walking upright, developed larger and more complex brains, created sophisticated tools, controlled fire, developed language, and eventually spread from Africa to every habitable continent. Each of these transformations involved not just biological change, but also behavioral and cultural innovation. The ability to walk on two legs was both a biological adaptation and an enabler of tool use. Larger brains required not just genetic mutations, but also new dietary practices to fuel metabolically expensive neural tissue. Language was simultaneously a product of anatomical changes to the vocal tract, neurological changes in the brain, and cultural transmission of symbolic meaning. Modern biological anthropology has traced the path of Homo sapiens through genetic and fossil evidence. Modern humans emerged in Africa approximately 300,000 years ago. Small groups began migrating out of Africa around 70 to 100,000 years ago. These migrants encountered and interbred with other hominin species like Neanderthals and Denisovans. By about 15,000 years ago, humans had reached every continent except Antarctica. This journey represents one of the most successful biological expansions in Earth's history, laying the foundation for all the cultural diversity we see today. Archaeology approaches human history through material remains, reading the story of past societies in the objects they left behind. Archaeologists employ rigorous scientific methods, excavating layer by layer and carefully documenting every artifact, every bone, every trace of past human activity. Excavation is painstaking work, removing soil layer by layer and recording the position of every find. Dating techniques place discoveries in chronological context, using methods ranging from radiocarbon dating for organic materials to thermoluminescence for ceramics. Through archaeology, we've learned about pivotal transformations in human history. The origins of agriculture, which began independently in several parts of the world around 10 to 12,000 years ago, fundamentally changed human societies. This agricultural revolution led to larger populations that could be sustained by cultivated fields, permanent settlements that grew into villages and towns, social stratification as surplus food allowed some individuals to specialize in non-food production, and eventually the rise of cities and civilizations. Archaeological evidence shows us the rise of early urban centers in Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley, China, and Mesoamerica, each developing complex social hierarchies, specialized labor, monumental architecture, and systems of writing or record keeping. Archaeology also reveals less visible but equally important aspects of past lives. What people ate and how their diets changed over time, how they organized their households and divided space, how they buried their dead, and what this reveals about their beliefs, what objects they valued enough to trade across vast distances. These material traces allow us to reconstruct entire ways of life that have left no written records. Archaeology demonstrates that the past is not a simple progression from primitive to advanced. Ancient societies developed sophisticated knowledge of their environments, engineering capabilities that still impress modern observers, and artistic traditions of remarkable beauty. They solved problems in ways that demanded a deep understanding of materials, mathematics, astronomy, and human organization. Linguistic anthropology examines language not merely as a communication system, but as a fundamental aspect of culture and cognition. This branch recognizes that language shapes how we think, how we perceive the world, and how we organize our social relationships. Linguistic anthropologists investigate profound questions. Does the language you speak influence how you perceive colors, spatial relationships, or time? How do multilingual speakers navigate between different cultural frameworks? Language also serves as a site where power operates and identities are constructed. Many languages encode social hierarchy directly into their grammar, requiring different pronouns or verb forms depending on social status. Linguistic anthropology documents the extraordinary diversity of human language. There are approximately 7,000 languages currently spoken in the world, each representing a unique way of categorizing experience. When a language disappears, we lose entire ways of understanding the world and irreplaceable cultural perspectives. These four branches might seem to address very different aspects of human experience, but they're united by several powerful ideas. The first is the concept of culture itself. Culture refers to learned and shared patterns of behavior and belief. Culture is not biological. It's transmitted through learning and socialization. This explains why, despite our genetic similarity, human societies differ so dramatically. Culture can change much more rapidly than biology, allowing human societies to adapt to new circumstances with remarkable speed. Cultural relativism insists that to understand any cultural practice, we must first understand it within its own context. Cultural relativism doesn't require moral relativism, but it demands that understanding precede judgment. Holism recognizes that everything connects to everything else. An anthropologist studying a marriage ceremony explores how that ritual relates to economic exchange, political alliances, religious beliefs, kinship structures, and historical changes. Fieldwork and ethnography represent anthropology's distinctive methodological contribution. The commitment to long-term, immersive engagement with communities sets anthropology apart. This method recognizes that understanding culture requires building relationships and learning to see the world through others' eyes. Behind these ideas and methods stand individual anthropologists whose work fundamentally shaped the discipline. Franz Boas, often called the father of American anthropology, challenged the racial hierarchies that dominated early anthropology. He argued that cultural differences reflected history and environment, not biological superiority. His emphasis on cultural relativism helped transform anthropology into a genuinely scientific discipline. Bronislaw Malinowski revolutionized anthropological method through participant observation. Stranded in the Trobriand Islands during World War I, Malinowski spent years living among the islanders. His detailed ethnographies demonstrated what could be learned through immersive fieldwork. Claude Levi-Strauss brought structuralist analysis to anthropology, arguing that beneath surface diversity lay deep structural patterns rooted in universal features of the human mind. His work revealed hidden patterns of meaning and demonstrated the intellectual sophistication of societies that colonial anthropology had dismissed as primitive. Mary and Louis Leakey transformed our understanding of human origins. Their fossil discoveries in East Africa pushed back the timeline of human evolution and demonstrated Africa's centrality to our species' history. Why does anthropology matter in the 21st century? Anthropology matters because the challenges we face are fundamentally anthropological. Climate change requires understanding how different societies relate to their environments. Global health crises demand recognition that medical interventions succeed or fail based on cultural appropriateness. Migration raises questions about identity and belonging. Technological change transforms how we communicate and relate to one another. Applied anthropology brings anthropological insights directly to contemporary problems. Anthropologists work in public health, education, international development, business, and human rights, helping design culturally appropriate interventions and understanding the cultural dimensions of complex challenges. Beyond practical applications, anthropology offers something even more fundamental: perspective. In a world that often feels divided by difference, anthropology reminds us that culture shapes what seems natural and obvious. Race, gender, family, nation, all these categories that feel so solid are actually human constructions that vary across time and space. This recognition reveals that other arrangements are possible, that what exists today isn't inevitable. Anthropology expands our sense of human possibility. It shows us multiple ways to organize society, multiple ways to raise children, multiple ways to think about nature and the cosmos, multiple ways to be human. This expansion of imagination allows us to envision alternatives to our current arrangements. It demonstrates that social change is possible because what humans have created, humans can recreate differently. So we return to the question we began with: what does it mean to be human? Anthropology's answer is humbling and exhilarating. It means to be part of a species that developed the capacity for culture, for language, for symbolic thought. It means to be capable of extraordinary diversity within fundamental unity, sharing deep commonalities while creating radically different societies. It means to be shaped by culture while retaining the capacity to change that culture. It means to be both biological organism and meaning-making being. The blueprint behind human society is not a single plan, but rather an astounding capacity for variation, creativity, and adaptation. We are a species that can live in deserts and rainforests, in villages and megacities. We can hunt and gather, farm and manufacture. We can organize ourselves in bands, tribes, chiefdoms, and states. We can believe in one God or many, in ancestors or abstract principles. We can trace kinship through mothers or fathers, through blood or through choice. The possibilities are vast. Anthropology doesn't just tell us what we have been. It suggests what we might become. It reminds us that human societies are human creations, that the way things are is not the way they must always be. In understanding the full range of human experience across time and space, we gain the perspective to imagine and work toward different futures. We see that the institutions and practices that seem inevitable are actually contingent, that they emerge from particular historical circumstances and can be transformed. As you move through your day, consider the layers of culture that surround you, the learned behaviors so deeply ingrained they feel like nature. Consider that everything around you, from the language you speak to the food you eat to the way you understand time and space, has been shaped by culture. And consider that somewhere else in the world, people are living equally full lives organized according to entirely different cultural principles. This is the gift anthropology offers, the ability to see ourselves and others with clarity, compassion, and wonder. It expands our imagination of what human life can be and invites us to participate consciously in creating the cultures we inhabit.